Do
The slap
something!
echoed through the
Help
private
her!
hospital room like a crack of thunder. Makena, 9 months pregnant, vulnerable, gripping the bed rails through another contraction, couldn't believe what just happened. Nurse Kylie's hand had connected with her face, hard. Her cheek stung. Her vision swam with tears. The baby kicked violently inside her. But the physical pain wasn't the worst part. It was knowing the woman paid to care for her had just struck her while she was helpless, defenseless, about to give birth. 15 minutes across Seoul, Gwan sat stone-faced in a warehouse meeting with men plotting his downfall. His phone vibrated repeatedly on the table. Makena's name flashed on the screen. He let it ring. Business first. Always business first. Then a text message cut through from his friend Evans. Hospital. Makena. Emergency. Now. What Gwan discovered when he finally walked through that hospital door would ignite a rage that would make his enemies look like saints. And what he did to protect his family will leave you absolutely speechless. She was completely alone when it happened. Makena, beautiful, black, African, married to Korea's most feared Mafia boss, lay in the luxury wing of Seoul Memorial Hospital, fighting through labor and desperately trying to reach her husband. But Gwan was locked in negotiations with rivals who smiled to his face while sharpening their knives behind his back. His phone sat ignored in his jacket pocket. Back at the hospital, Nurse Kylie, bitter, resentful, consumed by jealousy toward women like Makena, saw an opportunity. A foreign woman, married to money and power she didn't deserve, someone who didn't belong. So when Makena cried out for help, begging for someone to check on her baby, Kylie didn't offer comfort. She delivered a sharp, deliberate slap across Makena's face. Then she walked out, closed the door, left her there. What followed was hours of terror. A pregnant woman in active labor, alone, afraid, with a red handprint burning on her cheek. Until Gwan finally arrived. He took one look at the bruise darkening his wife's face, at the fear in her eyes, at her trembling hands cradling their unborn child. And the most dangerous man in Seoul became something far more terrifying. A husband who realized he'd failed when it mattered most. A father-to-be who understood that all his power meant nothing if he couldn't protect his own family. This isn't just a revenge story. It's about love powerful enough to transform a ruthless man, and the moment one act of cruelty exposed the evil hiding in a place meant for new beginnings. If stories of fierce protection, redemption, and love that conquers darkness move you, drop a like, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe. Because what Gwan did when he learned the truth will restore your faith in justice. The contractions started at 2:47 a.m. Makena had been alone in the house when the first wave hit. Sharp, brutal, stealing her breath. She'd called Gwan immediately. "I'm coming," he'd said, his voice distant, distracted. "Give me 30 minutes. That was 3 hours ago. Now she lay in the private room at Seoul Memorial, monitors beeping steadily, her body racked with pain every 4 minutes. Still alone. Her phone sat on the side table, screen dark, no messages, no calls returned. She dialed again. It rang 5 times before going to voicemail. "Gwan, please." Her voice cracked. "I need you. The baby, something feels wrong. Please come." Another contraction tore through her. She gripped the bed rails, knuckles pale, breathing through gritted teeth. When she opened her eyes, Nurse Kylie stood in the doorway. "Finally." "Thank God," Makena gasped. "Can you check? I think something's wrong with the baby. The pain is—" "You're fine." Kylie's voice was flat, cold. She didn't move closer. Makena blinked through the tears. "Please, I've been trying to get someone for 20 minutes. The call button isn't. Because I disconnected it." The words hung in the air like poison. Makena's heart stuttered. "What?" Kylie stepped into the room, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Her face was composed, calm, but her eyes burned with something dark. "Do you know how long I've worked at this hospital?" Kylie asked quietly. 15 years. 15 years of watching women like you waltz in here with your designer bags and your rich husbands. I don't understand." "Your husband." Kylie's lip curled. "Gwan. Do you know what he did to my brother?" Makena's mind raced. She knew Gwan's business, the violence, the enemies, but she'd never asked for names. She'd never wanted to know. 3 years ago, Kylie continued, her voice shaking now, my brother owed money to the wrong people. They sent Gwan to collect. He didn't just take the money. He took everything. My brother lost his business, his home, his family. I'm sorry, Makena whispered. Another contraction was building. But I didn't. You didn't what? No? Kylie laughed bitterly. You married a monster and pretended not to see the blood on his hands. You live in luxury built on suffering. The contraction hit like a freight train. Makena cried out, doubling over, her hand instinctively reaching for the call button that wasn't working. Please, she sobbed. Please help me. This isn't about me. This is about my baby. Your baby. Kylie's face twisted. Another generation of Gwan's bloodline. Another monster in the making. No. You think you deserve to be happy? To bring a child into this world while my brother's children went hungry? Makena tried to speak, but the pain consumed her. Sweat poured down her face. The baby kicked frantically, as if sensing the danger. You're all the same, Kylie hissed, moving closer. Crying, begging, acting helpless when it suits you. I'm not... Shut up. The slap came without warning. Kylie's palm connected with Makena's cheek with a crack that seemed to split the world in half. Makena's head snapped to the side. The room spun. Her face exploded in hot, stinging pain. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Makena's hand trembled to her cheek. Her fingers came away, wet tears, sweat, or blood. She couldn't tell. She looked up at Kylie through blurred vision. The nurse stood there, breathing hard, her hand still raised. That, Kylie said softly, is for my brother. Then she turned and walked out. The lock clicked. Makena was alone again. But this time, the isolation felt different. Darker, suffocating. She reached for her phone with shaking hands, dialed Gwan again. Voicemail. Gwan. Her voice was barely a whisper. She hit me. The nurse, she locked me in. I'm scared. Please. Please come. I need you. Another contraction ripped through her body. She dropped the phone and screamed into the empty room. No one came. The monitors beeped steadily. The baby kicked. The minutes crawled by. And Makena realized something that terrified her more than the pain, more than the locked door, more than even the slap. She realized that Gwan's world had finally caught up to her. And she was paying the price for loving a man she never truly knew. The warehouse smelled like diesel and old blood. Gwan sat at the head of a metal table, face carved from stone, while 5 men argued around him. They thought they were negotiating. They were actually deciding how they'd die if they said the wrong thing. The shipment was short, Park Ji-won said, leaning forward. 10%. We paid for 100%. Gwan's expression didn't change. Then you counted wrong. We counted 3 times. Then count again. His phone buzzed on the table. Makena's name flashed across the screen. Again. Gwan glanced at it, then back at Park. You're accusing me of theft. Choose your next words carefully. Park opened his mouth, closed it. The other men shifted in their seats. Smart. The phone buzzed again. Another call. Another voicemail. Gwan's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Evans, standing against the wall behind him, caught the movement. He knew that tell. Had seen it 100 times in 15 years of friendship. Gwan was getting irritated. We're not accusing, another man, Kim something said quickly. We're just saying there was a discrepancy. Maybe a mistake at the dock. There was no mistake. Gwan's voice could have frozen fire. But I'll have my people recount. If you're right, you'll be compensated. If you're wrong... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The phone buzzed a 3rd time. Then a text message notification. Then another. Evans pushed off the wall and moved closer, glancing at the screen over Gwan's shoulder. His face changed. Boss, he said quietly. It's Makena. Multiple calls. I know. She's at the hospital. Labor. I know. Gwan's eyes never left the men across the table. She has doctors, nurses. She's in the best facility in Seoul. The messages can wait. Gwan's tone left no room for argument. We're almost done here. But they weren't almost done. Park wanted guarantees. Kim wanted timelines. Another man wanted to renegotiate terms that had been settled weeks ago. 20 minutes crawled by. Gwan's phone went silent. Good. She'd finally stopped calling. Someone at the hospital must have helped her. Then Evans's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it. Gwan watched him from the corner of his eye while Park droned on about shipping routes and customs delays. Evans's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. He ended the call and moved directly to Gwan's side, leaning down to whisper, "We need to go. Now." Gwan's eyes flicked up. "I'm in a meeting. Hospital. Makena." Evans's voice was urgent, controlled. "There's a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The kind that needs you there. Immediately." Something in Evans's tone cut through everything else. Gwan stood. The men at the table looked up, startled. "We're done," Gwan said flatly. "I'll have the count by tomorrow. If there's a problem, you'll know." "But we haven't finished." "I said we're done." The command in his voice silenced the room. Gwan was already moving toward the door, Evans beside him. "What happened?" Gwan asked, once they were outside, his long strides eating up the distance to the car. Amara called, Makena's friend, the other nurse. Evans unlocked the black Mercedes. She found Makena locked in her room, alone, in labor. Gwan's hand froze on the door handle. Locked in? Door was locked from the outside. Call button disconnected. The air seemed to drop 10 degrees. Where was her assigned nurse? That's the problem. Evans started the engine, pulling into traffic faster than legal. The assigned nurse is the one who locked her in. Silence. Then, explain. Her name's Kylie. Seoul Kylie, goes by her Western name. She's been Makena's nurse since admission. Evans ran a red light. Amara found her 20 minutes ago. Makena was hysterical. Said the nurse slapped her. Gwan's entire body went still. Slapped her. It wasn't a question. Across the face. Left a mark. For 3 seconds, Gwan said nothing. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed. It rang once before Makena answered. "Gwan." Her voice was wrecked, sobbing, terrified. Something cracked in his chest. "I'm coming," he said. His voice was different now, softer. "Are you safe?" She locked me in," she said. Makena's words dissolved into crying. "I'm so scared." "The baby. Is the door open now?" "Yes. Amara found me. But Gwan, she hit me. She said it was because of you, because of what you did to her brother." Gwan's free hand curled into a fist. "Who else is with you?" "Just Amara. The nurse Kylie, she's gone. I don't know where." "Stay with Amara. Lock the door. Don't let anyone in except doctors, you know. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Please hurry. 10 minutes, I promise." He ended the call. Evans glanced at him. "What are you going to do?" Gwan stared straight ahead. His expression was perfectly calm, perfectly controlled. But Evans had known him long enough to recognize that look. It was the look Gwan wore before someone stopped existing. "You should call the hospital administration," Evans said carefully. "File a formal complaint. Let them handle it internally. If you go in there like this..." "She struck my wife." "I know. While she was in labor." "I know, but my pregnant wife." "Locked her in a room. Alone. Helpless." Gwan's voice was soft, deadly. "You think I'm calling administration? I think you need to be smart about this. You go after a nurse in a hospital. It'll bring attention. Police, media. Things you don't need right now." "I don't care." "You should care. Think about Makena. The baby. You want them caught in that storm?" Gwan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Find out everything about Seoul Kylie, her brother, what I supposedly did to him, where she is right now. I want details." "Already on it." Evans made a call, speaking rapidly in Korean to someone on the other end. The hospital came into view. Gwan was out of the car before it fully stopped. Evans caught his arm. "Boss, think about what you're about to do." Gwan looked at him. His eyes were empty. "I am thinking," he said quietly. "I'm thinking about my wife's face, the bruise, the fear in her voice. And someone is going to answer for that." He pulled free and walked toward the entrance. Evans followed, already knowing this night would end in blood. The only question was how much. The hospital's automatic doors slid open with a hiss that sounded like a warning. Gwan moved through the lobby like a storm front, his presence pulling every eye in the room. The designer suit, the visible tattoos crawling up his neck. The 2 men flanking him, Evans and another bodyguard who'd appeared from nowhere. People moved out of his way without being asked. The reception desk nurse looked up, and her smile died instantly. Room 304, Gwan said. Not a question. Sir, visiting hours are... Room 304. She swallowed and pointed toward the elevator. Gwan was already moving. Inside the elevator, Evans checked his phone. Kylie still in the building. 3rd floor nurse's station. She clocked out of Makena's room but hasn't left her shift. Good. The word carried the weight of a death sentence. The elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor. Gwan stepped out and immediately saw Amara standing outside Makena's room. Her eyes widened when she recognized him. Mr. Gwan, she's resting. The doctor gave her something to calm. He walked past her and pushed open the door. Makena lay in the hospital bed, her face turned toward the window. When she heard him enter, she looked over. The bruise on her left cheek was already darkening, purple and angry against her brown skin. Gwan stopped breathing. He'd seen violence his entire life, had inflicted most of it himself, broken bones, split skin, blood on concrete. But seeing that mark on his wife's face did something he wasn't prepared for. It unmade him. Gwan. Makena's voice cracked. She tried to sit up. He crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside the bed, his hands hovering over her face, afraid to touch her, afraid he'd hurt her more. I'm sorry, he said. The words felt foreign in his mouth. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. She said it was because of you. Makena's tears started fresh. Because of something you did to her brother. She said I was paying for your sins. Gwan's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Where is she? Makena asked. What are you going to do? He looked at his wife, beautiful, terrified, carrying his child, and realized he was standing at a crossroads. If he walked away now, let the hospital handle it, filed reports and complaints and let bureaucracy take its course, he'd be doing the right thing, the smart thing. But everyone would know. Word would spread. The Mafia boss who let someone hurt his wife, who did nothing, who showed weakness. In his world, weakness was blood in the water. His enemies were already circling. The meeting tonight had been proof of that. Men testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push. If he let this go, they'd push further. But if he retaliated, if he did what his instincts screamed at him to do, he'd bring chaos down on Makena and the baby. Police, media, questions he couldn't answer. Gwan. Makena touched his face. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, he said slowly, that I need to see this nurse. Please don't do anything crazy. He kissed her forehead gently, carefully avoiding the bruise. Rest. I'll be back. Outside, Amara was waiting with Evans. Where is she? Gwan asked. Nurse's station, Amara said quietly. But Mr. Gwan, if you make a scene, she'll claim self-defense or patient aggression. It'll be her word against Makena's. Let me worry about that. He walked toward the nurse's station, Evans falling into step beside him. Last chance to think about this, Evans muttered. I have thought about it. They rounded the corner. The nurse's station was a long counter with computers and files and 3 nurses working the night shift. Kylie stood at the far end, updating a chart. She looked up when Gwan approached. For a second, her face went pale. Then she composed herself, lifted her chin. Can I help you? Her voice was steady, professional. You're Seo Kylie. I am. And you must be Mr. Gwan. She set down her pen. I was wondering when you'd show up. The other nurses had stopped working. The entire station had gone quiet. My wife, Gwan said softly, has a bruise on her face. Yes. She became hysterical during labor, started thrashing. I tried to calm her down and she struck me first. I reacted instinctively to protect myself. The lie came out smooth as silk. Gwan's hands curled into fists at his sides. You're saying my wife attacked you. I'm saying she was in distress and became violent. It's not uncommon in difficult labors. Kylie glanced at the other nurses, her expression sympathetic. I've seen it before. The pain, the hormones, some women lose control. So you hit her back. I defended myself, briefly. Then I removed myself from the situation for both our safety, and locked the door. I secured the room, yes, for her protection and mine. She was unstable. Every word was calculated, delivered with practiced concern. She'd thought this through. Gwan felt something cold settle in his chest. This woman wasn't afraid of him. She thought she was protected by hospital protocol. by witnesses, by the lie she'd constructed. She thought she'd won. "You're lying," he said quietly. "I'm documenting what happened. If you have a complaint, you're welcome to file it with administration. I've already submitted my incident report." "Your incident report?" "Yes. It's standard procedure when a patient becomes aggressive." Kylie picked up her pen again, dismissing him. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other patients to attend to." She turned away. Gwan's voice stopped her. "Look at me." Something in his tone made her freeze. Slowly, she turned back. Gwan stepped closer to the counter, close enough that she could see his eyes clearly, close enough that she couldn't mistake what she saw there. "You put your hands on my wife," he said, each word carved from ice. "While she was helpless, pregnant, alone. You struck her because you wanted revenge for something I did to your brother." Kylie's composed mask cracked slightly. "I don't know what you're—" "Don't." Gwan leaned forward. "Don't insult me by continuing the lie. We both know what happened in that room." The other nurses were staring now. Evans had positioned himself to block the view from the hallway. "You think you're safe because we're in a hospital," Gwan continued, his voice dropping lower. "Because there are witnesses. Because you filed a report first. I am safe. And if you threaten me, I'll have security remove you." "I'm not threatening you." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm making you a promise." The air in the station seemed to thicken. "I won't touch you," Gwan said. "I won't hurt you. I won't even raise my voice. But I'm going to find out everything about you. Where you live, where you shop, where your brother lives now after I destroyed his business. Every detail of your life." Kylie's face paled. "And then I'm going to make sure everyone in Seoul knows exactly what you did tonight. Not the lie you told. The truth. I'm going to make sure you never work in healthcare again. That no one will hire you. That your name becomes synonymous with cruelty." "You can't." "I can. And I will." Gwan straightened. "Because you made a mistake tonight. You thought hurting my wife would hurt me. But all you did was show me exactly who you are." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. That bruise on my wife's face? It'll heal in a week. Maybe 2. He looked back at Kylie. "What I'm about to do to your life will last forever." He walked away. Behind him, he heard Kylie's voice, shaky now, trying to call for security. But Gwan was already gone. Evans beside him, heading back to Makena's room. "That was restrained," Evans said quietly. "For you. I'm not done yet." "What's the plan?" Gwan's expression was unreadable. "She wants to play games with reports and lies? Fine, we'll play. But we play by my rules." He pushed open Makena's door. She looked up, searching his face. "What happened?" "Nothing yet," Gwan said. But in his mind, he was already making calls, pulling strings, activating networks that most people didn't know existed. Kylie thought she'd won because she'd struck first with paperwork and procedure. She didn't understand that Gwan had been fighting wars long before she decided to make his family a target. And in his world, wars didn't end with incident reports. They ended with complete and total destruction. The hospital director's office was on the 5th floor. Gwan didn't wait for an invitation. He walked past the secretary's desk at 3 a.m., Evans and 2 other men behind him, and pushed open the mahogany doors. Director Han Jun-ho looked up from his computer, startled. "Excuse me, you can't just—" "Seo Kylie," Gwan said, closing the door behind him. "One of your nurses. Tell me about her." "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "The husband of the woman she assaulted tonight." Director Han's expression shifted from annoyed to cautious. He recognized danger when he saw it. "I'm not sure what you're referring to." "Room 304. My wife. 9 months pregnant. Your nurse slapped her across the face and locked her in the room alone during labor." That's a very serious accusation. If you'd like to file a formal complaint." "I don't want to file a complaint." Gwan sat down in the leather chair across from the director without being asked. "I want her fired. Tonight." "Sir, I can't terminate an employee based on one accusation without an investigation. There are procedures." "How long have you known about her?" Director Han blinked. "Known what?" "That she has a history of mistreating patients." Gwan pulled out his phone. Evans had sent him the file 20 minutes ago. 3 formal complaints in 2 years. All dismissed. All from women of color. All claiming verbal abuse, neglect, or excessive force. The director's face paled slightly. "You knew, Gwan said flatly. And you did nothing. Those complaints were investigated and found to be unsubstantiated. Because she's careful. She targets vulnerable patients. Foreign women. Women whose husbands aren't around. Women who don't speak Korean well enough to fight back. Gwan leaned forward. My wife was just convenient. She had the audacity to marry me. Look, Mr. Gwan. Director Han's eyes widened. Recognition dawned. Yes, Gwan said softly. That Gwan. The office went very quiet. Now, Gwan continued, I'm going to give you a choice. You can fire Seoul Kylie tonight, revoke her license, and launch a full investigation into patient complaints at this hospital. Or, the door burst open. 4 security guards rushed in, hospital radios crackling. Director Han, we received a call about an intruder. They saw Gwan and stopped. Evans stepped forward smoothly, positioning himself between the guards and Gwan. The other 2 men flanked the door. There's no problem here, Director Han said quickly, holding up a hand. Just a misunderstanding. The nurse at the station said this man threatened staff. One of the guards said. He was young. Nervous. His hand hovered near his baton. I said, Director Han repeated, his voice strained. There's no problem. We need to escort him out. The guard reached for Gwan's arm. Evans moved like liquid lightning. 1 second the guard was reaching. The next he was on the floor, arm twisted behind his back, Evans's knee on his spine. Don't, Evans said calmly. The other 3 guards drew their batons. Evans's men moved to intercept. Stop. Director Han was on his feet now, hands raised. Everyone stop, now. The room froze. Gwan hadn't moved from his chair. He looked at Director Han expectantly. Get out, the director told his guards. All of you. This is a private meeting. But sir... Out. Evans released the guard on the floor. The 4 men retreated, shooting dark looks over their shoulders. When the door closed, Director Han sank back into his chair. His hands were shaking. You can't do this, he said quietly. You can't threaten my staff and strong-arm your way into my hospital. I haven't threatened anyone. Your nurse did that. To my wife. While she was helpless. Gwan's voice was ice. Now you're going to fix this. Or what? You'll hurt me? Burn down my hospital? No. Gwan stood. I'll hold a press conference. Tomorrow morning, I'll tell every news outlet in Seoul what happened tonight. I'll show them the bruise on my pregnant wife's face. I'll show them Seoul Kylie's history of complaints. I'll ask why this hospital protected her. Director Han's face drained of color. And then, Gwan continued, I'll start digging. How many other patients has she hurt? How many other nurses like her work here? What else is your hospital hiding? You wouldn't, the scandal would. Destroy your reputation. Cost you millions. Probably cost you your job. Gwan nodded. Yes, I would. Why? Director Han's voice cracked. Why not just sue? Take a settlement? Why do this? Gwan paused at the door. The question hung in the air. Why was he doing this? The old Gwan would have handled this differently. Quietly. Violently. Made Kylie disappear and moved on. But something had shifted when he'd seen Makena's face. When he'd heard the fear in her voice. She'd said Kylie told her this was because of him. Because of what he'd done to others. And she was right. His world, the violence, the cruelty, the casual destruction of lives had finally touched his family. The blood on his hands had stained the one pure thing he had. Because, Gwan said slowly, my wife asked me not to do anything crazy. So I won't hurt your nurse. I won't make her disappear. I won't do what I normally do. He looked back at Director Han. But I will make sure this never happens again. Not to my wife. Not to anyone else's wife. Not to any woman who walks into this hospital vulnerable and afraid. You want reform, Director Han said, understanding dawning. You want to change how we operate. I want accountability. I want every complaint taken seriously. I want patients protected, not staff. Gwan's voice was hard. And I want you to understand that if this happens again to anyone, I won't be so restrained next time. Director Han was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened his laptop and began typing. I'll need statements. From your wife. From the other nurse who found her. Medical documentation of the injury. You'll have it. And I'll need time. To do this properly. By the book. You have 72 hours. Then I start making calls. Director Han nodded slowly. Seo Kylie will be suspended pending investigation. If the evidence supports your wife's account, it will. Then she'll be terminated, and we'll report her to the nursing board. Not good enough. I want a full review of your patient complaint system. I want reforms, oversight, real consequences for staff who abuse patients. That's not something I can promise overnight. Then start tonight. Gwan moved toward the door. Because right now, you're not just protecting one bad nurse. You're protecting a broken system. And I'm going to break it wide open unless you fix it first. He walked out. Evans followed, phone already in his hand. Press contacts? Not yet. Give him his 72 hours, but have them ready. And if he doesn't deliver, then we make this hospital famous for all the wrong reasons. They took the elevator down to the 3rd floor, back to Makena's room. She was sleeping when Gwan entered. Amara sat in the chair beside her bed, keeping watch. Gwan moved to Makena's side, looking down at his wife, at the bruise, at her hand resting on her swollen belly. For the first time in years, he felt something other than cold calculation. He felt purpose. Mr. Gwan? Amara whispered. What happened? Change, he said quietly. I'm making change happen. It wasn't revenge. It was something better. And as he stood there in the quiet hospital room, watching his wife sleep, Gwan realized something. He'd spent his whole life taking from the world. Maybe it was time to give something back. The hospital's automatic doors slid open with a hiss that sounded like a warning. Gwan moved through the lobby like a storm front, his presence pulling every eye in the room. The designer suit, the visible tattoos crawling up his neck. The 2 men flanking him, Evans and another bodyguard who'd appeared from nowhere. People moved out of his way without being asked. The reception desk nurse looked up, and her smile died instantly. Room 304, Gwan said. Not a question. Sir, visiting hours are... Room 304. She swallowed and pointed toward the elevator. Gwan was already moving. Inside the elevator, Evans checked his phone. Kylie still in the building, 3rd floor nurse's station. She clocked out of Makena's room, but hasn't left her shift number hook and intro. Korean Mafia boss sees nurse slap his pregnant wife. His reaction will leave you speechless. 72 hours later, Director Han called an emergency meeting. The hospital boardroom was full. Administration, legal counsel, department heads, and sitting at the far end of the polished table, Gwan. He didn't belong there. Everyone knew it, but no one dared say it. Director Han stood at the head of the table, a thick file in his hands. We've completed our investigation into the incident involving Seo Kylie and patient Makena Gwan. His voice was steady but strained. What we found was troubling. He opened the file. Nurse Seo has been with us for 15 years. In that time, she received 3 formal complaints. All were investigated internally. All were dismissed due to insufficient evidence. 3 complaints in 15 years doesn't seem, one of the board members began. There were also 12 informal complaints. Director Han continued. Written notes in patient files, concerns raised by other nurses, documentation of difficult behavior that never escalated to formal reports. The room went quiet. 12. Someone whispered. All of the patients who complained shared certain characteristics. Director Han's jaw tightened. They were foreign, non-Korean. Most were women of color. Several were married to prominent Korean men. Gwan listened without expression. We also discovered, Director Han continued, that Nurse Seo's brother, Seo Minjun, filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago following business dealings with certain parties. The timeline suggests this created a personal grievance that Nurse Seo directed toward patients she perceived as connected to those responsible. In other words, Gwan thought, she'd been taking revenge on innocent women for what I did to her brother. What's being done? Gwan asked quietly. All eyes turned to him. Nurse Seo has been terminated effective immediately, Director Han said. We've reported her to the nursing board. Her license will be revoked pending their investigation. And the other patients? The 12 who complained? We're reaching out to all of them, offering apologies, settlements where appropriate. That's not enough. The room tensed. Mr. Gwan, one of the lawyers began, we're taking this very seriously. You're doing damage control. Gwan stood. You're trying to contain the problem before it becomes public. That's not the same as fixing what's broken. Director Han met his gaze. What do you want? I want reform. Real reform. Gwan placed both hands on the table. I want a new system for handling patient complaints. One that doesn't protect staff at the expense of vulnerable patients. I want oversight. Third-party review. Real consequences. That would require significant resources. Time. Money. I'll fund it. Silence. You'll fund it? Director Han repeated slowly. A new patient advocacy program. Independent investigators. Training for staff on recognizing bias and abuse. Whatever it takes. Gwan's voice was firm. But it doesn't just happen here. I want this to be a model. Something other hospitals can follow. Why? The question came from a woman at the far end of the table. Head of nursing. Why would you do this? Gwan thought about Makena, about the bruise that had finally faded from her face, about their daughter, born healthy 2 days ago, sleeping peacefully in the nursery down the hall. Because my wife was lucky, he said quietly. She had me. She had resources. She had people who believed her. But those 12 other women? They didn't. And how many more never complained at all because they knew no one would listen? He looked around the table. My whole life, I've taken from people. Destroyed businesses. Ruined lives. I told myself it was just business. Just survival in a ruthless world. He paused. But my wife almost paid the price for that. My daughter almost came into this world in a room where her mother was assaulted. Because of my choices. My actions. My world. The room was completely still. I can't undo what I've done, Gwan continued. But I can stop it from happening to someone else. I can make sure that when a woman walks into this hospital afraid and vulnerable, she's protected, not targeted. Director Han studied him for a long moment. This would be a significant commitment. Years of oversight, ongoing funding, public scrutiny of everything we do. I know. And you'd be involved? Personally? Yes. Another pause. Then Director Han nodded slowly. Then we accept. With conditions. The program has to be transparent, accountable. No interference from your other business interests. Agreed. And if this is some kind of publicity stunt, it's not. Gwan's voice was steel. This is about my daughter growing up in a world where women are believed when they say they've been hurt. Where justice isn't something only the powerful can afford. He moved toward the door, then stopped. One more thing. C.O. Kylie's brother, the one whose business I destroyed. Director Han looked up warily. Find out what he's doing now. If he's struggling, help him. Training, job placement, whatever he needs. Gwan's expression was unreadable. His sister's actions were wrong, but maybe if I hadn't been so ruthless 3 years ago, none of this would have happened. He walked out. Evans was waiting in the hallway. You're going soft, Evans said, but there was no judgment in his voice. Maybe. Gwan headed toward the nursery. Or maybe I'm finally becoming the man my daughter deserves. Through the nursery window, he could see Makena holding their baby girl. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. The most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. He'd spent 30 years building an empire on fear and violence. Maybe it was time to build something better. Something worth passing down. Not a legacy of destruction, but one of protection, of justice, of change. He pressed his hand against the glass. His daughter yawned, tiny fingers curling in her sleep. And Gwan made a promise. Not to his enemies, not to his empire. To her. That he would be better. That he would do better. Starting now. This is what happens when love forces a man to choose between his past and his future. Want more stories of powerful transformations, unbreakable bonds, and justice that restores your faith? Subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Comment below with where you're watching from and what part hit you hardest. And if you know someone who loves intense emotional stories like this, tag them. Let's build a community that celebrates fierce protection and real change.